What's up, guys? This is John with Knife Shop and the Survival Outpost, and today we're going to talk about what you need to look for when you're purchasing or picking out your bug out location. Just a few things that you might not think about. Stay tuned. Okay, guys, so let's talk about buying a bug out piece of property, or if you're not able to purchase one, you are scoping out something that could potentially be a bug out location for you and your family. Now, I've talked similar about this in the city environment, bugging in kind of situation, but I'm really going to be just focusing on just the land and resources that are around the land in this video. So, first thing to think about: is there water on that property, whether it be by a well that's there already or one that you dig? Is there branches, springs, creeks, rivers, whatever on the land? Or is it accessible close enough that you don't have to expense a lot of energy to obtain that water? Can you pipe into it, put a ram pump on it to pump it to where you're at? And how is the quality of the water? All of that is a huge factor, because if you have very polluted water that you're going to have to do a ton of processing to, or it's not drinkable, then where you're at is not going to be a good place. Rain barrels can only hold so much, and what happens if you hit a drought that you're not able to obtain water? Then it gets very serious. And you don't realize how much a single person will use water-wise over the course of a day. And so a little trick that you might want to try, guys, is throughout the day, think about how many times you wash your hands. Now, I know in a survival situation some things will change, but just a note to think on. How many times you wash your hands? How many times do you flush your toilet? How many times do you turn your sink on to cook, to clean? All of that throughout the day. If you ever just stopped and looked at your water bill in a month, you use a lot of water. And unless you're already set up in your mindset to conserve water, you have to start changing that thought process. And for the whole group, that might be kind of hard to do. So, is there water there? Is it a good resource? Is it enough to sustain you and your party? And what means are you going to have to take to make that water source last, or to expand it by rain catches and other factors? One quick certain thing to think about, all right, guys? That's the main point. All right, number 2 point. What does the land look like? So you might find a place that has water, but the soil is so rocky you're not able to plant anything. Is there vegetation around that you can harvest from, like nut trees, fruit trees, wild berries? Or are you going to have to plant everything? Now, it's easy to plant stuff even if the ground is hard, because you're still going to have to process it. But, being able to process the land, till it up, everything like that. But if there's already resources there, it's going to make your life a little easier, because it takes a while for fruit trees to start producing. It takes a while for grapevines and strawberries and all that to start producing. So if you already have things there, then it's going to make your life a lot easier whenever it comes to one of those bad situations. All right, guys, so let's talk about security. So on your property, before you purchase or pick this as my primary location, you need to check a few things. And whenever I used to have my bug out location up in the mountains of Tennessee, before I sold it a couple of years ago, I started noticing there was a lot more foot traffic and ATV, UTV traffic on my property than what I realized. I would find shotgun shells. I would find tracks. I put cameras up and started noticing that my driveway was actually connecting to someone else's property, and that was their back way of going to their property, so they didn't have to drive all the way around. I had so much traffic on my road, I could have put up a toll booth and made money. So pay attention to if it is, and talk to people around the town, tell them about the property, that you're thinking about purchasing, not necessarily what you're doing there, if anyone asks, just go, I'm wanting to get some hunting land, or I just want to put me a little cabin to get away. Don't ever say, and this is my primary thing I tell everybody, do not ever tell anyone what you're doing there unless it is a trusted source. Don't let people know what you have. Don't let people know anything about it unless it is a trusted person, whether it be a neighbor or anything. A neighbor could turn into a hazard very fast in a bad situation. So just a side note. But ask around town, talk to your neighbors, go, hey, yeah, I'm thinking about buying this property right down here. And my neighbors told me something after I purchased mine. It's like, oh yeah, we drive through all the time to get to our friend's house. It's our back way in. And I went, oh, well, that's interesting. That's not cool. So ask those questions because you might end up in a bad situation. Now, defendability. You can defend, again, any place. But how much work is it going to take to make it defendable? Again, back to your neighbors. Do you have somebody that's right up on you on one side, or there's a few acres between you on both sides? Do you need to put up small little watchtowers, even if that's like a tree stand? Do you need to put up early warning devices? All of that you need to think about so you do not get yourself in a bind and think you're secure and you're really not. I would rather be over secure than under secure. So look at everything around you. Look at how securable the property is. Okay, guys, next thing to think about. Structures. Are there any buildings or structures on the property? Now, another thing to think about, and I'm also going to be talking about it in the next video. I'll tell you about that here in just a minute. But if there is 10 people in your bug out party, or 10 families in your bug out party, and y'all are all going in together to buy this place, and there's only one house on it, you all can't stay in that one house, at least not for a long period of time. And I'll go ahead and tell you, tents and canopy style tents, the big ones, or the military style tents, those really do not work for really good long-term sustainability. They're good for temporary, but not for long-term. So think about structures or how to build structures on your property. One thing that we talked about doing was finding the sheds that have been repoed and converting even small ones into living spaces, for families. You can make something small work really easily and not have a lot of money in it. Even if you don't have running water in there, or if you have a communal area that you go eat at or get food at and go back to your little house, you still can have your own space. Everyone is going to need their own space, not just for driving each other crazy. What if someone gets sick? They can quarantine in their house. People can leave food right there by the porch and they're good. If there is a situation where there are disagreements, if something happens where someone's stealing, you have a place where they can be and they can stay there. So something to think about, not just to, so you have a nice place to sleep, but you have your own space. But also if someone's sick, if anything happens, if you need to technically put someone under house arrest because of whatever reason, you have a place to put them. You're not trying to figure that out and they're having to stay in a tent, or they're having to try to be sick inside a tent. They actually have a place where they can be. So structures on the property, how many, what do they look like, and what can you do to add structures? Okay guys, a couple more things before I'm out. This is going to go back to the land, and I just forgot to add it in. What does the hunting look like on that property? Are you able to hunt deer, elk, whatever, squirrels, rabbits, anything on your land? And also, are you able to have enough space to set up a spot to have chickens, cattle, various meat animals if you aren't able to hunt? Or if you just want to add those to that also. So you have hunting and you have farm animals. Do you have the ability to have that on your land? The last thing is this, is how accessible is your land? Now, yes, this would fall under security, but I also want you to think about it. Do you have to cut a road in? This was something that come up with my property. Even though I had a road, I did not have a right-of-way into my property. So almost hurt us in our selling, but technically that road didn't exist. It's just something somebody put in, and it wasn't considered an accessibility to the property. If you do not have accessibility to your property, or do you have to cut through other people's land to get to your property? Pay attention to all of that when you're looking at land, because I have seen a lot of properties that were for sale and it says no right of way to property. Well, that means you have to get permission from someone to go through their land to get to your land, or you have to fight a battle to try to buy something extra to be able to get the right of way onto your property. Look at how much the property cost and really pay attention to those details on right of way to the property or into the property. If it does not say those words, you need to ask some questions, because if it's really cheap and it's a lot of land, there's a chance there's a hazard there in the paperwork that is going to make either accessibility, building, hunting, all that stuff could cause some kind of issue. So guys, think on all this stuff. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. Our next video, we're going to be at our bug out location number 1. We have 2 different bug out locations. We're going to be at one of our bug out locations, and I'm going to kind of show you some things that we have on our property so that you know what we've got there to be able to survive long term. You got to remember, you can't just survive on MREs and freeze-dried meals. You have to always think long term, even if the situation is short term. And if you think in the long-term mindset and it ends up being long-term, you end up not having yourself in a bad situation. So guys, if you want to get outfitted for your bug out location for survival, building bug out bags, come and check us out here at the Knife Shop and Survival Outpost. If you don't live in the great state of Tennessee or close to Ooltewah, Tennessee, check us out on Whatnot. I will leave a link in the description, and they give you a credit for your first few purchases. It will not cover shipping, but it does cover the purchase. So guys, I will see you on the next one. God bless. Get outside and have an adventure.